All right, it's your 3 favorite kitchen amigos. That's right, Matt's reminding us about our social distancing. Welcome back to FPC Wednesday Night Supper with Matt Parker.
Hi.
We're excited.
We are, and today we are going to see how Matt prepares his famous ribs as well as his penne pasta salad that we have had here at the church before. It should be really good.
Sounds yummy.
Let's get
All right.
cracking here. I will tell you all a lot more things, I'm sure, about the selection and preparation of ribs than you would like to hear, because you probably already know this much and maybe beyond. But when we do our ribs for the church, we use baby back ribs, domestic pork baby back ribs. We can buy them 1 rack at a time, which feeds at least 3 people. 2 racks could feed 4 to 6. They come in a 3-pack at your larger membership warehouse type operations. But I have made basically the finished product here, which is a result of at least 2 to 2.5 hours of poaching in liquid on top of the stove. They can be done start to finish on a gas grill. They can be done start to finish on a charcoal or wood grill, or that combination. Obviously, they're very flexible. What you want to do is make sure you have plenty of flavor and they achieve the proper tenderness that you like them to be. Some people like them to be, as they say, to the bite. To the bite meaning you could bite them, chew them, etc. Other people like them falling off the bone. Some people like them somewhere in between. In national rib competitions, baby backs are not generally what they use. They normally use a rib known as a St. Louis rib, which is a larger rib that has the top edge cut off and the bottom edge cut off. I prefer baby backs, but everyone has their preference. St. Louis ribs are just fine too. Baby backs you can expect to pay at best around $2.79 a pound, at worst at least $6 a pound raw or more at your smaller, more shishi retail grocery stores that everyone likes to frequent and be seen in. So with all that said, we have been working on these ribs for more than a couple of hours. What I'm going to show you is the assemblage of the poaching liquid, which has, if you have your list of ingredients, at least 20 ingredients. I have brought, as usual, a few more that I either didn't think about or didn't know that I could get. We grow a lot of these. This is our fresh tarragon that grows right outside the Vintage House restaurant next door. Our fresh sage leaves, same story, and they will be just roughly chopped. And that's one of the easier things about this dish and this recipe, is that some of the chopping, since it's going to be cooking for 2 to 3 hours, it doesn't have to be finely chopped. Just kind of broken up works just fine. So what we'll do, I'm going to take pictures of our ribs. The ribs can be eaten just as they are, but of course, who would want to do that when you can slather them with sauce and then caramelize them either on the grill or in an extremely hot oven. I have done them both, and they both work fabulously. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the ribs back over to the stove so we can give a little better demonstration on the poaching liquid. So I'm going to attempt to generally go write down my list of ingredients. I'm going to start with what we use the most of, which is water, approximately 2 gallons. That may be too much, it may not be enough. Let's start pouring and see where we go aside from splashing. I'm really good at. This is approximately 2 gallons. And I'm going to stop a little short, so I've stopped at about 6 quarts, I would say, but I always want to keep water in reserve somewhere in the kitchen near the stove, because if your poaching liquid starts to get too low or too thick, you need to add something quickly. Water is your best bet. Now, after the water, we will proceed with apple cider vinegar. Moving on from that to balsamic vinegar. Color will give it away. I'll smell. That's it. Next, an optional ingredient, an all-natural ingredient that is liquid smoke. Right here, available in most grocery stores. Put our smoke in. You do not have to have it. It certainly intensifies the flavor. After that, how about some good old-fashioned Worcestershire sauce? One shake, approximately for me, 1 cup. Certainly darkens it and flavors it. Soy sauce. I prefer Kikkoman's. Your choice is your own. So that certainly does add some salt. I didn't mention salt on the list of ingredients, but we will be addressing that shortly. Now, how about brown sugar? That's going to take a little bit of a whisk. So I have the brown sugar here. You use quite a bit. What I'm looking for in these flavors are classic flavors, which is a combination of sweet, sour, and hot, and somewhat salty. So I'm going to start whisking these chunks of brown sugar. There we are. Let's start with that. By the time we get that on the stove, that sugar will start to dissolve. All right. Reserve the rest of our brown sugar. And we're going to go on to the molasses. I did not pour the molasses into a bowl because the molasses tends to stick to anything it touches and I don't want to lose any of it. So we're talking about approximately 2 cups. Once again, a good whisk. Our poaching liquid is already getting very dark. Moving is a good thing. Put my mess as usual. And we start moving toward the apple juice. 1 cup. Competition barbecue and rib folks use apple juice as much or more than they use any other flavoring liquid. They really believe it. Let's get that to Beth, okay? Now, your preference in hot sauce, I prefer Frank's because it is somewhat vinegary and it's not as hot as some of the others. All right? We've got our hot sauce. And we start thinking about blackening rub. I bypassed the whiskey because I wanted to put it in last as far as one of our liquid ingredients. Your choice of whiskey. This is an American Tennessee whiskey. I make sure it goes in the poaching liquid, not in the cook or at the church. Now, our blackening spice. We put it in a little, somewhere it used to say rub on here. Well, there it is. RUB. Let's see. Can you see that? Of course, naturally, we make it all ourselves, and we do sell it at the vintage house. Twist that. All right. Salt. I use a seasoning salt, once again, that we make. It's based on our favorite and the only salt we really use, which is kosher salt. I'll put a little bit of kosher salt in as well. I'd say that's probably close to 2 ounces. Once again, that is something you would do to your preference in saltiness flavor. Now we'll work our way through some of the dry ingredients. Red pepper flakes, I would certainly caution you on this. A little goes a long way and can be very intense. Depends on the level of heat you like. 1 good sized pinch, 2 good sized pinches, for me 3 good sized pinches, let's say, and a small. Okay. After that, I want fresh parsley. I just use the stems. You do not have to chop it up finely. They will be cooking for hours. Old Bay seasoning. You can also put A little bay leaf in if you'd like. A touch of bay leaf. Make sure not to eat the bay leaves. Old Bay seasoning, we'll put a little of that in as well. Work our way toward a little dry mustard, which does add heat. It'll be very hot. Onion powder. A little more onion powder than cumin, I think, or is it less? No, it's the other way around. A little more cumin than onion powder, but I would say about the same amount is probably right. Cumin, once again, very strong. And we'll say that cumin maybe to put a little touch in on pasta salad. Right, so we have added regular salt. Gone through my whole list of ingredients. I believe I've added most of them, not all of them. Now, I like to put our fresh herbs in. This is actually fresh French tarragon that we grow. Very strong. Fresh sage. Just needs, you can already, I wish you were here so you could smell this once we start to break the stems. Garlic, which instead of finely mincing, I've just crushed. And so at home, if you like to do it that way, and you can use minced, but you just take your knife, a heavy knife, use the bottom back of the knife, and just one at a time. Anyone that knows us know that we're never short with the garlic. There we are. That's probably 8 cloves right there. Now, with that said, we have an onion here that we need to quarter. And I'll check the ingredients again. And I believe once the onion is in, we are there. You can peel the skin off the onion if you like, or you can leave it on. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will discard our onion skins. And prepare to cut our fresh rosemary, which we also grow. Actually used to grow this at the church, and then we put it in a parking lot. So that's the trade-off. But we keep growing it at the restaurant. Approximately 2-inch portions. In we go. So now, to get all these flavors going, I'm going to put it on the stove and we're going to fire it up. Even though our ribs, I think if wishing you were here, we can already smell it. Let's see, what are my chances of getting this to the stove? So, I put it on 2 burners at one time. Making sure they both light, which they did. And that will be fired up in 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. But in the meantime, what shall we do? Occupy our time. Let's check on the ribs. You remember these from the beginning. Here we are again, still steaming somewhat. And as we recommend, served with your favorite barbecue sauce. As you see, our favorite has no label yet, because of course we make it from scratch and we actually do sell it in a couple of parts of the Southeast United States. We have entered this sauce in competition on numerous times and occasions. I'm sure it will be defeated one day, but it is not lost yet. So, as we shall begin the slathering process, I have learned the hard way that it's best when you start to put the sauce on to start bottom side up. As I'm moving the rib racks around, you want these to just barely be able to be moved around without falling apart. That's the whole key. That's the test of everything. You want to be able to move them in and out of the poaching liquid, and it being a very big challenge to keep them coming out in one piece. If you have to fight to keep them together, they're done. Now let's get our favorite brush, our competition sauce, and we start to slather. Or you can actually pour a little on, move it around. I'm not sure how much of this on the bottom end stays on the rack anyway, but we can always reapply from the bottom of the pan. The liquid I have in here now is a little bit of apple juice. Now I'm going to attempt to turn both of these over and not lose my brush. These are meant to be messy, and they are. There we go. Looks like that's going to work. Piece of tarragon, let's move that out of the way. And now the other rack. We'll just rest it on the other one and then slide it down. And time for more sauce. Once again, you could put these right on your grill. The grill would need to be quite hot to keep them from sticking. You would need to spray, pan spray on the grill, probably spray pan spray as well on your racks of ribs. Do everything you could do to keep them from sticking. Because we're going in the oven, hopefully that's not going to be the case. Oven should be turned up pretty high. I would say at least 450 degrees to start. I'm going to go wash my hands right now. There we have it, and the key word to washing our hands is 20, as in seconds. So, in go the ribs. Let's get the door open first. Out of. In we go. So we have ribs in the oven, poaching liquid on the stove. I think it would be a great time to start our pasta salad. Fairly easy assembly of the pasta salad. I've already found some Kalamata olives I was just surprised to see we had, but it's a pleasant surprise. I've diced the Kalamata olives, no pits, always check for pits. And I have some sun-dried tomatoes here. I'm just kind of roughly chopping up. Add them as well. Both of these items are fairly salty. You want to keep that in mind before you decide to season or over-season the pasta salad. All right, let's add the sun-dried tomatoes. One of my favorites, capers. Do not need to be chopped, it's up to you. Some fresh small balls of mozzarella, those as well. And we'll add a little southwestern flair to this. We're going to put some green onion in. Most important thing chopping green onions is making sure that green onions are the only thing you chop. Probably not a great time in our modern times to be going for visits to the emergency room, I would guess. So fingers are key. I'm going to put a little bit of dried powdered cumin. Here it's very intense once again, so I would use a small amount of it. You can't, if you're a real garlic fan, you can put raw roasted garlic in here. We're in the middle of the day, so I think we're going to skip the garlic raw for right now. I'm going to put a touch of cilantro in here as well. If you've been around me enough, you know that was just a matter of time before we break out the cilantro. That's probably two to 3 cups of pasta already cooked. You want your pasta to be cooked a little more in pasta salad than you would for a hot preparation. So that's at least 2 ounces of cilantro fresh. Put in there. Now let's season it a little bit. How about some extra virgin olive oil? Always add more, so we take it easy at the beginning, and I may add more. I'll put a touch of vinegar in as well, and believe it or not, this clear liquid vinegar is balsamic vinegar also, but it's white balsamic vinegar. I believe you can find it in your local Shishi stores. Let's start to put this together, gently moving it around. We're going to season it with a little bit of red pepper flake, a small touch of salt, I'm going to get some Be Safe disposable cutlery and we'll see where we are. Let's put a little Parmesan in there before we try it. This is our freshly grated Parmesan. Grate by hand, grate in a machine, but I do believe it's very important to grate your own Parmesan. I wish you could feel this, literally soft as a baby's behind, because we hand grate it. It doesn't look so bad. I hope it tastes good. How about that? I vote that it needs a grand total of nothing. We're there. Pasta salad with a kick. Y'all enjoy that. The poaching liquid is coming to a simmer on its way to a major boil, but this simmer is the temperature actually that we want it to be, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. That is what we are looking for. That is the level of boil that we are pursuing, and that will serve us well for 2 to 2.5 hours, I would estimate, in cooking the ribs in the poaching liquid. And every rack of ribs is different. A pan like we're using, this is considered a 4-inch hotel pan. It is approximately 18 inches by 12 inches, and it will hold easily 2 racks of ribs, possibly 3. The more ribs you have, the higher the poaching liquid goes up in the pan, so you certainly want to watch that. You don't want it to overflow, would cut your flame off or potentially burn someone. So you just consistently check and modify the amount of liquid that is necessary in your poaching liquid, because it does cook down and it thickens as time goes by as well. Another great thing about the poaching liquid that we make is that you can use it over and over again, and each time you use it, it gets stronger and a little thicker, but more intense flavor each time. So actually, from about the second time you would use your poaching liquid on, you're really cooking in a poaching liquid that is basically spicy pork stock. We would add our racks of ribs, and we would keep an eye on them, keep an eye on our level of our liquid for at least 2 hours. have some tongs ready, other pans that are empty that you would have next to your stove so you can transfer the ribs out of the poaching liquid into the pan. Because we are about to transfer our ribs from the oven onto the table and then transfer them, I'm sure, into someone's tummy. So let's see where we are. And the word I would say for that now is wow. In all due modesty, I would say it looks a lot like a magazine. We hope it's good, and we hope you enjoy yours. I'm sure yours will be better than ours, but we don't think ours will be that bad. Thank you again for your time, your trouble, your faith, and your safety. God bless.